Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Roberts, and as always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Roberts. And here on the magnificent Monday edition of the Yard, it is Egg Bowl week. I don't know if we should call it Egg Bowl week. Yeah, I mean, the Clarion Ledger is the one that it's kind of like, people used to call us Stark Vegas to make fun of us. And then we kind of adopted it and flipped it. So the Clarion Ledger is the one that decided years ago, when State and Ole Miss were not very good and we weren't making bowl games, they dubbed this game the Egg Bowl. It's always been known traditionally as the Battle for the Golden Egg, which is the correct and proper name. As Jack Crystal said, I don't think we should call it the Egg Bowl just because the Clarion Ledger did. I agree with Jack, even though I get caught up in it sometimes too and I forget. It's just so much easier. But it's Rivalry week here in the state of Mississippi, and so as a result, and the fact that you guys are going to be traveling a lot this week, like many of you are going to be back and forth to Starkville and maybe going to Grandma's house on Wednesday, going to the ball game and going home Friday. You're going to have 4 boneyards this week. How about that? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And so I'm coming to you from the wee hours of the morning on Monday morning. Now, our schedule for today has changed a little bit. Ordinarily, we would get Mike Leach between 2:30 and 3:30. We're going to get him as a post-practice deal, kind of a Zoom call on Monday evening. So if you're looking for Mike Leach, Ole Miss commentary, mid-afternoon, not going to have it. We're also not going to have coaching or player availability this week. Now, never fear, because we have been in the game a long time, and our trusty friends in media relations were able to work with us. So we got several players Saturday after the win against Tennessee State. It's kind of an Egg Bowl preview or a battle for the Golden Egg preview. There, I'm doing it already. And so we're going to have several player features. I got a lot of guys from Mississippi. I interviewed Austin Williams, Nathan Pickering. Of course, we got Will Rogers. I got Jet Johnson, too. So those features will run out Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, kind of leading up to Thursday's festivities. So a lot to unpack today. We're going to break down the game. We're going to talk a great top 10 list. We're going to recap the weekend it was, and going to take a trip down memory lane, courtesy of our good friends at Portico. And so we're going to talk about great Mississippi State wins in the rivalry this week is part of that great section from Portico, this historical facts. Now, one of the things I'd like to share with you guys, and I was on the show earlier, I actually did a show with Stingray and somebody else. They reached out and said, hey, Steve, we'd like to talk to you this week. It's Rivalry Week. Happy to talk because in many respects, in most circles, I am the definitive expert on the State-Ole Miss rivalry. And I don't think that's undisputed. So there are a few things I want to say. And this comes up. People say, hey, why do you think it's gotten so bad the last few years? Guys, let me bring you up to speed. Let me break some news here for you today on the Boneyard. It has always been bad. Always. You're just more aware of it today because of social media, because people can't really hide themselves. I go back to the very first game ever played between Mississippi A&M and the University of Mississippi. The very first game was delayed because a former Ole Miss player had enrolled at Mississippi State and was now playing for us. And the coaches at Ole Miss felt that created an unfair advantage for Mississippi State or Mississippi A&M, regardless, us. So the game was delayed. We sat him and won anyway. We still beat him. In 1905, we played Ole Miss in Jackson for the very first time. Now, I recounted some of this in Stark Villains, and there was a letter to the editor of The Reflector written by a student at the time. We ran that letter in its entirety, in its original prose, in that book. You can go buy that book today, and you can read about it. Stark Villains and Alpha Dogs both are written, the kind of the history of the State-Ole Miss rivalry from a Mississippi State perspective. And so I love those books, man. I really do. I learned a lot. But in 1905, we played them in Jackson for the very first time. Now, legend has it that every student at Mississippi A&M attended the game. They went out there, boarded a train, took the Rivalry and everything, and went all the way down there. They attended the game. And so there were no stands back then. And so as we began, to get momentum in the ball game, our fans, our students are kind of on the field, like talking trash, bobbing, weaving, that sort of stuff. So the game had to be stopped several times to get our fans off the field. And what's interesting, too, is Ole Miss either fired or their football coach resigned about 6 weeks before the season. So as a result, they only had 2 games under contract. That was with UT Chattanooga. They lost and got shut out. And the game was against us, and they got shut out. So they played 2 games, lose them both, don't score a single point. And so those smarmy Aggie cadets, our forefathers, somehow, some way found a coffin in Jackson. Have no idea how they found a coffin. They did. And so they either borrow or purchased this coffin, and then they conducted a full military parade funeral for the death of the spirit of Ole Miss athletics. And they even put Bully on top of the coffin, and they played a very somber funeral march. This goes back to 1905. Now, there was a time there, of course, State, we were obviously the better program. Had tougher kids, just kind of how things were. We had the farmers' kids, and the bourgeoisie in Mississippi did not want the farmers' kids going to school with their kids. You may go, and I discussed this in Stark Billings, is so when the Morrill Land Grant Act was passed as part of post-Civil War Reconstruction, the money initially went to Ole Miss, and everybody says, of course they take it. Well, they were the only institution of higher learning at the time for white students. And so they took it, and they set up agricultural and mechanical arts programs. It didn't work out. Ultimately, that money was given back, and they actually took a portion of the funds away from Alcorn State. That's a true story. I have read some people that dispute that. That is true. So there was money taken from Ole Miss and from Alcorn that basically funded the founding of Mississippi State. It's a true story, 100%. And we shouldn't feel guilty about that. It wasn't our decision. But Ole Miss fought tooth and nail to kind of prevent all that stuff. So, again, it was very contentious. And so they didn't want to play us for a long time because, we were the new kids on the block and, they were just too good to play us. And I think they really got tired of losing to us. It's pretty even for the most part, but they were like, we're going to upgrade our schedule. So after the 1911 game, the Mississippi State won 6-0. They decided they're going to upgrade their schedule. They did not play us 1912, 13, or 14. And finally in 1915, we got to get them back on the field. And we took out 4 years of frustration. And we beat those guys 65-0. 65-0. Most lopsided victory in the series. And then Mississippi State did not lose to the school up north again until 1926. That's right. Rattled them off 1915, 16, 17, and then 2 times in 18. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. They finally beat us in 1926 in Starkville. They rushed the field, tear down the field goals, and the next thing you know, all hell breaks loose. And as the legend has it, some wooden chairs had to be sacrificed to protect the dignity of Mississippi A&M. So when I hear these people say, it's gotten so bad, why are you so delicate? This has always been a rivalry that is not for the faint of heart. Our grandfathers are out there cracking each other over the head with a wooden chair because Ole Miss finally won a football game for the first time in forever. And you want to talk to me about it's toxic? Give me a break. Give me a break. It's ridiculous. So here's the deal. I'm happy with the arrangement exactly as it is. I don't know how you guys feel. I don't need anybody from Ole Miss to like me. They're not my target audience. I know many of them are listening to this show. And you say, I can't stand that guy. You know what? The feeling's mutual. Right back at you, pal. This doesn't matter to me. I mean, they're not good at sports. They're having a good year in football, but ideally they're not good in sports. And so we have to share a state with them. And I've heard people say, I wish they'd close Ole Miss down. I don't agree. I think it's perfect as it is because those people have somewhere to go to school. They're kind of consolidated in one area, in one part of the state. And so perfectly fine with me. Take a lot of pleasure in beating them, and I know they enjoy beating us. And I know as sure as I sit here, if we lose the ball game on Thursday, which I absolutely do not expect, my Twitter mentions are going to blow up. Oh, Steve, we stuck it to you. You know what? Hey, congratulations. You did. I don't like it, but I'm not going to get out there on Twitter and cry about it. Just not going to do it. Not going to do it. I got too much pride in myself. But, when it's our year to brag, we're going to have a good time with it. And I believe this will be our year to brag. I feel really good about the ball game, and we're going to spend this week talking about that. We are. That's not to say it's not going to be a competitive ball game. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Could be a lot of things happen at ball game. But we're going to break a lot of things down. We're going to talk about, when State, tomorrow we'll probably talk about, what does the game look like when State is on defense, Ole Miss is on offense. Talk about those matchups. Kind of break down some offensive numbers from Ole Miss and defensive numbers from State. Because I really believe that is where the game will be won or lost. I think State's going to be able to score. I don't think Ole Miss is going to be able to get a lot of stops without our help. But can Mississippi State's Zach Arnett, the defense, get enough stops to win the ballgame? I think that is where the game will be determined. That's a very, very potent offense. And anybody that suggests otherwise is being disingenuous. Matt Corral is an extremely talented player, will be one of the first quarterbacks taken in this draft, and deservedly so. But I still want him to leave with a loss. I do. I know you guys do. I can respect them, but I don't always have to like them. And that's the thing, too, that there's so many people that make this so personal. I got nothing against those players. It's kind of the ideals in this whole, modern-day caste system and cultural elitism that gets to me. So I'm perfectly fine with the arrangement. I don't like them. They don't like me. They don't have to like us. That's fine. I'm not running for mayor in Oxford, but we're going to break down the game. We're going to have a great week. And I think it's going to end with a Bulldog victory. At least I certainly hope so. But I feel really confident about the game. Mississippi State gets out of this Saturday's game with pretty much as we talked about on the show on Friday. Best case scenario for State, of course, would be Vanderbilt to win the game. But I don't think anybody realistically expected that to happen. That said, Vanderbilt made Ole Miss play it down to the final possession. They weren't able to pull it. I think ideally, Lane Kiffin would love to be able to pull the guys at the half. And to be honest with you, and we'll talk about it a little later in the show, Vanderbilt could have made that game a lot more interesting. They didn't. They kind of stopped doing what worked for them. And, of course, State basically were able to sub pretty liberally. We had the second-team skill players on the field in the first quarter. And so you rotated rather liberally. And so State obviously kind of turns it over to second and third teamers later in the ballgame, which enabled Tennessee State to score. But the reality of it is that not only did we get a head start because of the start times, and Lane Kiffin even mentioned that in postgame. It's like, hey, they got a 6-hour head start. It was actually closer to 7 hours. And so while those guys are getting showered and everything else, we're already breaking down film. We are well ahead of the game. And so if we win this game or lose this game, we're not going to be able to blame lack of preparation. You can say, well, it's a short week. Well, they've had less time to prepare than we have. Let's thank our good friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of the show, and I am longtime fans of that establishment. Love going in there, love the food. Had lunch there recently with my good friend Chuck Jordan, who is a distant relative. I can't chase the lineage, but he is from Winston County originally, as my grandmother, and she was also the descendants of the Jordan family. Actually, an Intrican was her maiden name, but her mother was a Jordan. So I claim Chuck as my cousin, and it's my world. I can do that, right? It's my life. So went in there, had that salad again, and it is so substantial. Talking about that BLT salad. A lot of people say, Steve, I don't want to eat real heavy at lunch. I don't want that like in the afternoon. I don't want to get all sluggish in the afternoon. Let me encourage you to eat fresh. Go have that great BLT salad. You'll be glad you did. You can get it grilled or fried. My goodness. And you'll be happy either way. I don't get the red onions on mine. You can have my portion. You can tell them, hey, I want Steve's red onions, and they can give them to you. I don't even want onions in the kitchen when my food's being prepared. But that said, you can go and get salads at a lot of places, not nearly as good as what you're going to get at Bulldog Burger Company. So go by and check it out. 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive right here in Start Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo. Of course, the brand new one, Lake Harbor Drive in the Richmond-Flowood area. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the great restaurant quality hamburgers. Had a couple of people contact me over the weekend. They were Bulldog Burger Company newbies. Both of them had the Pimentology add bacon, and you know what? Changed the direction of their lives. Like Steve, you absolutely were correct. Absolutely were correct in what you said, what you did. I'm hooked. And that's how it is. I don't even like pimento and cheese sandwiches, man. I can't tell you how many dinner on the grounds deals I had to go to as a kid. My mom make those pimento and cheese sandwiches. Oh, we need to eat one of those because I made them. Well, I didn't want them. And so if we were outside, if I could ever find a dog to give it to, I would. And sometimes I don't even think a dog would eat pimento and cheese sandwiches. I know many of you do. It just doesn't work for me. But the pimento spread on the pimentology, bon appetit, man. It's wonderful. Go check them out today. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. MEAT. All right, in our relationship together, we have cultivated a relationship of honesty, right? We're straight with one another. And so you and I had a discussion all around midseason. So you know what? Hey, if we can improve down the stretch like we did last year, if we can be as good or better in the second half of the season than we were last year, it could be a really good year for us. And many of you at the time were all thinking, you know what, Steve, we're not going to make a ball game. And I tried to assure you we were. But I'll be honest with you, we're playing better than I expected. And that's not necessarily that I didn't expect State to blow out Tennessee State. I just want to point out to you, maybe you've missed this. Mississippi State has won 4 of the last 5. 4 of the last 5, and should have won the 5th one there at Arkansas. We blew it. We did. And it didn't boil down to a missed field goal. I know we missed. Yeah, shouldn't have boiled down to that. We got to get a stop there. The game's over. But this whole winning streak, we lose to Alabama. We were thinking, let's just get through that thing healthy. We've got some winnable games on the schedule. Well, guess what? We're winning those games. 45-6 winners over Vanderbilt, 31-17 winners over an overrated Kentucky team. We lose to Arkansas by 3, and, of course, they have played really well down the stretch and gave Alabama all kinds of trouble. I don't know if all these big Power 5 jobs opening up, I don't know if you don't make Sam Pittman an offer. The guy's doing a great job. And then we beat Auburn 43-34, and, of course, Tennessee State 55-10. So we've won 4 of the last 5, and we have been in every single ball game this year with the exception of the Alabama game. Every single one. It's very easy to look at the schedule and you say, you know what, hey, we lost by 3 to LSU. We lost by 2 to Memphis. We could easily be in a great position for New Year's Six Bowl. We're not. Those games count. But it's like, as bad as things have seemed at times, we are getting better as a football team and as a football program. All right, let's go ahead and break down this offensive explosion Mississippi State has against Tennessee State. And listen, nobody's calling this a big win, okay? But it was a big step for us because we took care of business. We did what good teams do to bad teams, and we put the game away early. We were able to pull our guys and get some rest on a very short work week as we prepare for Ole Miss on Thursday. So we win the toss and defer. I like it when we're able to do that. That just tends to work well for us. I haven't done the math on that, but that seems to favor us. And then Tucker Day kicks off out of bounds, and you think, oh, my gosh, what are we doing? What are we doing? Already spotting this hapless team, good field position. Well, here's what happens. They get 1 yard. 1 yard on the play, and then lose it. So it's complete for a yard, and I don't think they expected us to be able to close so quickly on the perimeter. Aaron Brule blows it up. And then they get a 1 yard gain from Devin Starling, their great running back, and he was very pedestrian against us. Then it's an incomplete pass. Sean Preston with the PBU there, and it's a punt. Jaden Wiley returns it 15 yards, fumbles it, but gets back on it. We take over at our 40-yard line and go right to work. We've only scored on our first offensive possession, I think, twice this year. I think that's correct. Vanderbilt, and then this game. I think that's correct. I'm almost positive that's correct because Vanderbilt was the first time we've done it all year, and then we go down 10-0. It's 25-0, 28-3. It's just we hadn't scored on his first possessions very often. We go right down and do it though. We're complete to DJ for 4, incomplete to Wiley, and then Malik Heath, who had a really good game, only a couple catches but some big plays. A catch for 31 yards down to the Tennessee State 25. We rush DJ for 4, and then it's a touchdown. Nice catch and throw here. Austin Williams, the 2 roommates hooking up for the first touchdown, gives State a 7-0 lead. Nolan McCord, true on the extra point attempt, but he was a starting kicker. And people say, well, Steve, when is Ruiz coming back? Hopefully he's back this week. Don't know. And there were a lot of guys, too, that maybe could have gone this week that because of the quality of competition, we held them out. including Tulu Griffin, Ra Thomas, and there were a couple others. So we kick it off, and this time it's a touchback, courtesy of Scott Goodman. Devin Starling then runs for a 2-yard loss. It's complete for a 1-yard loss, and then there's a sack for a 12-yard loss. So 3 TFLs on the play. Nathan Pickering, who is getting better week after week after week after week. We're really starting to see him realize his potential. Then it's a nice 50-yard punt, but Jaden Wally snags it and returns it 29 yards. We're 1st and 10 at their 31. What do? We go right in and score. Complete to Polk for 7, back to Polk for 5. Now we're feeding Polk for 4. 2nd and 6, we find Jameer Calvin for 8. Sets up a 1st and goal situation at the Tennessee State 7. We're incomplete to Woody there, and that's a drop. But rather than just say, come on, Woody, we go right back to him. We give it to him, and he runs it in, 7 yards for the touchdown. I got nothing to say negatively about the Mississippi State running backs. Guys doing a good job in pass protection. They have done a good job running the football. They don't always have great running boxes to go against, but when they do, they're making plays. And this is a good example of that. I love both of these guys, and I think the future is really bright for both of them. Love the way they complement each other. And there's no jealousy between them. They both of them they understand the other guy keeps them fresher. And if you'll notice, the Bulldog backs tend to get stronger as the game goes along. All right, so we kick it back off, and this time they decide to run it out, and they get a nice 24-yard return. Jett Johnson goes down there with a nice stick to end the return. And it's another 3 and out for the Bulldog defense. Complete to Roddale Rahman for a 1-yard loss. Then it's a run for a 3-yard gain. Then it's another sack for a 3-yard loss. So 2 more TFLs on this drive. This time a 39-yard punt. Jaden Wally gets just 4. So we set up at the State 42. 1st and 10. What do? Go right down and score. Again, Will Rogers complete the Caleb Ducking for a 1-yard loss. Probably should have gone a different direction there. It's a wide receiver screen. They beat a block there. It is what it is. We go back to Jaden Wally for 12, and we did a really good job involving him early, and that's what we're going to need that against Ole Miss. Then we're complete to Dylan Johnson for 17. He runs through a tackle. The kid's just getting better and better every week. Then we run DJ for a no-gain play to the Tennessee State 30. Then we're complete to Jaden Wally for 25. Sets up a 1st and goal situation. We go right to the end zone to Austin Williams. Another touchdown, his 2nd of the day. This Bulldog red zone efficiency is through the roof right now. We really struggled early on. Had to settle for field goals. We are doing a much better job converting, and I think a lot of that is the development of the run game. That is now a real threat when things get in and the field gets constricted a little bit. So instead of everybody just kind of sitting back on the goal line playing kind of a variation of a zone, they've got to respect the fact that we will give it to our running backs. McCord, again, true on the extra point there. Goodman gets a 65-yarder. They bring it out again. And it's a 30-yard return. However, there is a block in the back that takes it back to the Tennessee State 12-yard line. What do? Another 3 and out. How about that? I mean, we're just stacking up bodies at this point. All right, so it's a 5-yard gain to Michael Mitchell. Then it's complete to Cam Weiss. I guess it's 1 and 3 and out. I completely misread the box score. Please forgive me. So complete to Cam Weiss, who was probably the best offensive player for Tennessee State. Had a couple nice plays. And then Garnett is sacked for a 1-yard loss. That ends the quarter. It is 21-0 at this point. And Tennessee State has earned their first down. 1 first down. We're up 21-0. They got 1 first down. Then it's incomplete, and it's a punt. So they can get 1 first down on a drive, end up having a punt. And what do you know? It's a 49-yard punt, and then Jaden Wally returns it for 25 yards. At this point, I'm beginning to think, hey, what's the school record for punt return yards in a game? I'm just thinking it's a matter of time. He's getting 25 and 30 a return. A matter of time before he breaks one. Well, this time we didn't score. We break our streak. It's kind of a silly thing that happens, you know. So we get them on offside, set up a 1st and 5, puts us out in their midfield. We're complete to Polk for 7. He takes a pretty big lick there, fumbles the football, and they get it. And you think, oh, this is the break they need. They would need a lot more breaks than that. This needed to be fumbled into the end zone in order for Tennessee State to really capitalize, because this was a team that Mississippi State simply overwhelmed. So they put this thing together and put together a decent drive. One of the most, probably the only real threat they had in the first half. And so it's a run for 5, and then it's a complete pass that they run Johnson for 6, their second first down of the game. It's a run for 5, incomplete. Another one complete to Daron Johnson for the third first down of the game. Sets up a 1st and 10 at Bulldog 31. Starling then runs for 1. And this is, so they call timeout. And this is when Zach Arnett just said, okay, enough. A run for no gain. And then it's a sack, 17 yards, loss on the play. Tyrus Wheat gets a hand in there. He throws the football away kind of desperately. So State is credited with the sack, but officially it is an intentional grounding call. And there was no doubt about it. It was basically duck and chuck. 33-yard punt from our 47 and a fair catch by Austin Williams. And basically that's how it's going to be. If we're setting up a return, it's going to be Wally. All right, so State gets the ball back. This time we do get back on the scoreboard. Woody runs for 10 yards, and that's just such a tone setter for us. When we can run him and get positive yards like that, now all of a sudden those backers have to be honest. You know what I'm saying? It's like they can't everybody just drop out every single time. Then we mix it up and go right back to him. We check it out to him for 6. Complete the Caleb ducking for 8. And then we're back to ducking for 6 more on first down. Brings up a second before we go back to ducking again. We're feeding him. Incomplete this time. And the next thing you know, we throw the wide receiver screen. I believe it was Austin Williams with the key block out there. And then Malik Heath outraces everybody to the end zone. 56 yards to the house. The longest play from scrimmage this season for Mississippi State. And Malik Heath, obviously, that's a big physical receiver, guys. And he does what highly recruited players do in the open field. He runs away from people. And that's one of the things that kind of, is an issue for us when people play 2 and 3 high safeties. So this situation here, we scheme them up pretty good, and Malik makes them pay. And then McCord, again, true on the extra point. It's 28-0. At this point, everybody's thinking, all right, when do we pull the starters? Tennessee State puts together a decent drive here and kind of got gifted a first down here on what I thought was a really iffy call. But they open up with a 2-yard gain from Michael Mitchell. Go back for 4, brings up a 3rd and 4, and it's complete. Michael Mitchell back to him. And listen, I don't know that he had it initially, but he kind of carried Colin Duncan forward for a yard. He really fought for that. And I really thought Tennessee State played hard. This game is over, but I didn't think Tennessee State quit. I really didn't. They go back to Mitchell for a 5-yard gain. Then it's a 2-yard loss, brings up a 3rd and 7. And so Martin Emerson breaks it up, and they flag him for PI. I thought it was a really, really nothing call. I was really surprised. Maybe it was a mercy call. I didn't think Emerson got him. I've seen a lot more contact not flagged. But the reality of it is they flag us. It's 1st and 10 out at their 48. Incomplete then to Daron Johnson. They call timeout. And it's a gain of no yards and then complete for 5, well short of the sticks. And that's what happens, too. When State gets in cloud coverage and you throw underneath, the chances of you converting are pretty slim because we have gotten to be pretty good tacklers in the open field. And when we're in cloud like that, you've got to throw it underneath, and then we're going to close on you pretty good. And we rally to the football pretty well. It's usually more than one hat getting to the football. So 4th and 5, we call timeout, so they're not able to kind of run the clock here. We're trying to go get some more points. And during the timeout, they decide to go for it. And listen, I get it. You're down 28-0. It's like, hey, let's just see if we can make it happen. Well, they can't. Nate Watson, Buki with a great PBU there. So we take over at the 47, and we do what good teams do when given the ball at midfield. We go right in and score. We're incomplete to Rufus. Then we go back to Polk for 9, brings up a 3rd and 1. And then Dylan Johnson runs to 14, just kind of dragging people with him. And what do you know? We dial it up again from the 30, and it's a 30-yard touchdown pass to Austin Williams. 3 in the game. McCord good as well. This time we don't get the ball to the goal line, and they give up a 17-yard return, but State makes a tackle at the 19. Dylan Lawrence doing the honors there. And basically that's the half. They run for 6 and then run for 6, and it seemed like they took a knee, but it's not recorded here in the box score. That's how I remembered it. Maybe I'm stuck running together here. But the bottom line is they pick up a first down and we get out of the half. And so Mississippi State absolutely rolling at this point. Everybody's happy. It's 35-0. We know that we're going to substitute liberally here in the second half. All right, let's jump into the second half. Mississippi State deferred, so guess what? We get it first here. And We got a chance again. I was thinking, you know what? Let's just get through this first drive. Let's go score, and let's pull everybody. I mean, absolutely everybody. We had a chance. We didn't do it, though. And so we're complete the poke for 12, gets us a first down. And we're already out to the 46-yard line. We run for 2, back to Marks for 2 more. And then we're complete the poke for 2. Brings up a 4th and 4. We decide to go. And we throw it to Jameer Calvin. And for some reason, he ran the route short of the sticks. I don't know if he just thought he was going to be able to beat his man out of the break and be able to outrun him. But, on 4th and 4, I don't need a 3-yard route, especially in traffic like that. So I think that's probably one of those things Leach and Dave Nickel probably addressed in postgame. You can't run a 3-yard route on 4th and 4. But Tennessee State can't take advantage, even though they take over at midfield at their 45, pardon me. And then is a no-yard gain for Devin Starling. Again, the star running back, we're doing a good job. Just overwhelming that offensive line. Jet Johnson with a tackle there. Incomplete. DeMonte Russell beginning to flash for the Bulldogs. He gets the quarterback hurry there. And then we're incomplete again. That one was complete. And then Starling, again, it's kind of cloud coverage. You're not going to be able to do much against that. 42-yard punt. Austin Williams picks it up on the bounce, returns 2 yards to the State 11. What do? We go down and score. Will Riders complete to Mekhi Polk for 14. Then DJ runs for 6. We're incomplete to Williams. We go back to Williams on 3rd and 4 for a 19-yard gain, gets it out to midfield. And then we throw it deep, and we find Mekhi Polk for a 50-yard touchdown. And at that point, the route was completely on. And it was just a matter of, how soon do we make a call here? Tennessee State then actually puts together a pretty decent drive. One of their better drives of the day, even though it didn't yield any points for them. But Mitchell runs for 5, runs again for 6, moves the chains, first down. They're complete to Rodell Rahman for 2, and then complete to Daron Johnson again for 9. Daron Johnson becoming a possession guy. 1st and 10 out for the 49-yard line, complete to Cam Weish. Incomplete. They go back to Bryant for a run of 8, and then there is a holding call that backs it up. And this is really the difference in this drive. They were moving along to that. That was going to be a first down in Mississippi State territory just inside the 40-yard line. But it is nullified by a holding call. They go back to Devin Starling for 7, just kind of a check down over the middle, and State blows it up. And then it's a 36-yard punt to the MSU 15. State goes down and scores. Again, it's over here. We're just stretching our legs at this point. Incomplete at Jameer Calvin. We go to Marks on a swing pass for 9. Then Marks breaks a run for 22 yards. Again, this is the difference between the strength and conditioning programs. This is when you begin to see it. We're complete to Caleb Ducking for 13. Back at Jaden Wally for 9. Brings up a 2nd and 1. We give it to Dylan Johnson, who breaks into the open field for a 32-yard run for a touchdown. It is now 49-0 with the extra point. Good. And then, we're just kind of counting it down, right? I mean, it's like, let's just get out of here without any injuries. And that's the thing, too. I don't even remember seeing a single player having to be attended to by the Mississippi State staff. If there was anything, it was minor. And there wasn't anybody that had to be assisted from the field that I remember. Tennessee State takes over at their 25. It's a run for 9, a run for 3, which moves the chains, brings up a 1st and 10 at their 37. They're complete to Zaire Thornton for 6. Brings up a 2nd and 4, and then Michael Mitchell dumped for a 1-yard loss. Jet Johnson and Ty Cooper, the pride of Louisville High School, or Louisville High School, pardon me. And then they hit the big play, the one big play of the day. On 3rd and 5, they hit Cam Weish, who beats to Camryon Richardson, and I'm not going to hate on DCAM at all. I mean, this is a guy that needs reps. He's probably going to be a starter for us next year. But it's a 55-yard gain. Sets up a 1st and goal situation for them. And then Mississippi State said, nope, not going to do that. Not going to do that. So Bryant runs for a 4-yard loss, and Dylan Lawrence strips the ball out of there. Jet Johnson scoops it up, returns it 12 yards to the State 19. And at this point, everybody's like, these guys are not even going to score. Well, they did. They did. And a lot of it's because we gave them the short end of the field. That we take it, then we giveth at times. Chance Levertich takes over. It is complete to Rufus Harvey for 8. And then incomplete to Omni Wells, broken up J.J. Jernigan then runs for 2 yards and fumbles the football. And then TCU recovers at the state 29. Now, they didn't get much on this. They're complete for 8, then they run for 1, brings up a 3rd and 1, and then it's a 5-yard loss. But they knocked the field goal through from 43 yards, and they're on the board, 49-3. Get the kickoff. Marks returns at 25 yards. Really nice return. Like he was maybe a block away from really breaking that thing and getting some big numbers there. Levertich puts a nice drive together. And we go down and get that field goal back. So Levertich incomplete to Brody King. It was broken up. I really thought he might have gotten there early. They didn't flag it, and it's, at this point, if it's marginal, you probably let it go. Complete to J.J. Jernigan for 7, out to the 37. Levertich then runs for 2, brings up a 4th and 1. We go. Jernigan then runs for 8 yards. The newly scholarship recipient Jernigan for 8. Levertich lays it out for Teddy Knox, and we're just not quite there. And Teddy looked good running out on the field. Really want to see Teddy Knox a lot more in the years to come. Excited about his potential. A false start on Nick Jones, which is one of the only penalties of the day on Mississippi State. I believe there were 3. State kicks out of bounds on the opening kickoff. Martin Emerson is flagged on a kind of questionable 3rd and 7. And then you have a false start. We talked about pre-snap penalties early in the year. We have cleaned that up. This offensive line has really improved. Alabama game, not our best moment, but we have really improved since then. Levertich then complete to Carson Banks for 23 yards. How about that? Walk-ons making plays. Complete to J.J. Jernigan for 12, another first down. Brings up a 1st and 10 situation at the Tennessee 23. We're incomplete to Rufus Harvey. Kind of doing traffic there. Nick Harper breaks it up for him. We go back to Rufus for 7. Gets it down to the Tennessee State 16. Levertich then runs for 1 on 3rd and 3. Just couldn't quite get there. Then McCord steps up, knocks it through, makes it a 52-3 game. We kick it off. They return it 27 yards. Set up shop at their own 30. Devion Bryant is then complete to Zaire Thornton for 18. 4-yard gain on the quarterback being flushed there. Nick Mitchell and J.P. Purvis on the tackle. Starling runs for 2, brings up a 3rd and 4 situation. They find Cam Weish again. Same guy on that 55-yard gain. Here he is, 20. Jay Jemison on the tackle. Incomplete then. And then we've got another, I guess we actually had 4 penalties on the day. The box score initially said 3. But Corey Allington is penalized for pass interference. And, it's probably a little ticky-tack at this point in the ballgame. But, hey, the kid's got to learn. So it's 15 yards down from the State 26 to the 11. 1st and 10 to the 11. They run for 4, they run for 2, and then it looked like the parting of the Red Sea. Michael Mitchell runs easily in for 5. Again, of course, the Bandits are in there now. You're talking 2nd, 3rd team guys, so it's not an indictment on Zach Arnett in any way. And let's be honest, letting them score a little bit here late doesn't cost us anything when we're saving some wear and tear on our regulars. Teddy Knox then fields a kickoff and takes it back 31 yards to State 35 and looked really good doing it. Guy's really, really athletic. Tennessee State we set up shop here at the State 35. Levertich complete to Omni Wells for 40 yards. Really felt like he could have broke it here. A little bit impatient running there. He could have cut inside his block there. Ends up running into his blocker and tripping over his blocker. But, hey, glad to see those guys out there making some plays. We're complete then to Brody King for no gain. Back to him for 5. Brings up a 3rd and 5. And I think this was a busted play. You could have just thrown it away, but you know what? You run right there and you just take a knee and you set up a field goal. And Nolan McCord steps in and knocks it through. His best game is a collegian. We had this discussion and everybody had their feelings hurt and everybody was, wringing their hands over, what they perceive to be these fragile kickers. They're not. They're football players. They may not be guys that go out there and line up in the trenches. These guys are tough-minded people. You have to be to play in this league. And Owen McCord has responded. He has simply responded. I'm proud of the kid, and I think he had a great game on Saturday. And if it boils down to us having to make a big kick on Thursday, I got confidence the kid will go make it. Aiden Martin then gets a chance to kick off. And, kicks out of bounds. They don't register this penalty either. That's another penalty. And so Tennessee State just takes a kneel down, and that's a ball game. So it's 55-10 Mississippi State. Let's take a quick look at the numbers, and then we'll get into today's top 10 list. But looking at these numbers, Some huge numbers for Mississippi State. We did allow 14 first downs. It's like you look at that and it almost jumps out to you a little bit. 2 of them by penalty. But State with 23 first downs, 5 on the ground, 18 through the air. Rushing yards for us, we netted 107. They netted 35 on 34 carries. We ran it 15 times. We averaged 7.1 yards a rush. They had 1 yard. 1 per rush. That won't get it done. Total offense, 493 yards passing for us, 170 for them. 600 yards offense for us, 205 for Tennessee State. Not that we expected. I'm not sitting here gleefully calling these numbers out. I mean, it's just the reality of it. We did not punt on the day, which is always a great thing. They punted 7 times. They kicked off 3 times. We kicked off 10. That usually means you won, right? We got 3 touchbacks on the day on our 10 kickoffs. And some of that, maybe we're working directional stuff. We're trying to cover kicks and pin them inside 25. I'm not sure. 5 punt returns on the day. And believe it or not, we did not possess the ball. We did not win time of possession, which is a rarity for us. They did. They had it 35 minutes. Because we're scoring so quickly. Looking at individual efforts here. Will Rogers, 28 of 34 for 391 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks. Levertich, 8 of 12 for 102, also no sacks. Dylan Johnson, your leading rusher, 5 carries for 56. And what's interesting, too, is you look at the outside of us taking a knee a couple times, we had no negative plays in the run game. Jaquavius Marks, 5 for 43. J.J. Jernigan, 2 for 10. Chance Levertich, 2 for 3. And then they take the negative, the kneel down against him. All right, receiving numbers, Mekhi Polk, 9 catches for 110 yards and a score. Malik Heath, second in yardage, just 2 catches, 87 yards, but really showed some explosiveness. Austin Williams, one of his best days in a Bulldog uniform, 4 catches, 75 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jaden Wiley, 3 for 46. And again, I like how we utilized him early to kind of open up some things on the outside. Caleb Ducking, 4 catches for 26 yards. Dylan Johnson, 2 for 21. So you get on down the list. But we had a ton of people that went out for a pass for Mississippi State in this ballgame. Defensively, it's a little different, right? A little bit different on defense. The number's pretty gaudy for the Bulldog defense. You're out there an awful lot. So your leading tackler on the day, Deshaun Page. How about that? We hadn't talked about him much. 8 tackles on the day. Jet Johnson also had 8. Chum Preston with 7. And he has played well as of late. And we need him to. This is a guy that's really good against the run. He struggled a little bit last year in coverage, but he's had a couple of nice PBUs this year. Aaron Odom running second team at defensive end, also 6 tackles. Ty Wheat, 5 tackles for him. DeMonte Russell also with 5. I mentioned he's starting to flash a little bit. That's good news for Mississippi State. And I like how we move him around a little bit. That's a long, physical player. Tackles for loss, Ty Wheat led the team with 3 for 21. Nathan Pickering also had a couple. Both of his were sacks. Deshaun Page also with 1.5 TFLs. So a nice number for Bulldogs. A lot of people getting a hand in making those plays behind the line of scrimmage. Dylan Lawrence, of course, credited with the forced fumble and 4 tackles. Also had a tackle for loss. Jay Johnson with the fumble recovery. Looking at pass breakups, 3 on the day, Colin Duncan, Sean Preston, and Buki Watson. And we had the 1 quarterback hurry for DeMonte Russell. So Mississippi State takes care of business. We get out of here not having to punt, and really played clean for the most part. And the things that were mistakes, we had a fumble and we had a couple of really silly penalties that are execution penalties, not disciplinary type penalties. We had a couple of execution type penalties, and so that can be cleaned up. And you say, well, Steve, it's November. You know what? We're still trying to get better. As Mike Leach says all the time, we're trying to find a way to get better this week. All right, time for today's Top 10 list, brought to you by closewithblair.com. Blair is a mortgage professional. There are a lot of people in the game that are just like there to collect a check. That's not Blair. Blair is there to serve you. This is a guy, listen, the guy's been very successful for a long time. You don't stay in any industry for 20 years if you're not getting things done. And that's Blair. 20 years of experience, I think 21 years now. In the top 1% close ratio in the country. Works at Fairway Mortgage, not some fly-by-night, some prime lender. This is a guy working as a mortgage professional for a professional mortgage operation, one of the top 5 mortgage lenders in the industry. He also believes in doing business with Bulldogs. You should too. If you reach out to Blair, whether you're looking to refinance your home, looking to buy a home for the first time, maybe you're looking to say, hey, can we afford, maybe a place in Starkville? Can we get that done? Blair can help you. And maybe you've been turned down elsewhere. Give Blair a chance to help you. He can put you on a path to help you achieve your dream of home ownership. Give him a call or a text today. I'm going to give you his personal number, not his office number. No. Not his office number. Not his assistant's number. His number. 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. Again, I believe in doing business with Bulldogs whenever we can, kind of keep it in the family. And so if you mention to Blair that you heard about him on this show, whether if you've known him your whole life, just say, hey, Blair, I heard about your ad in the Boneyard. He's going to pay for your appraisal. It's about a $500 value. A lot of fees that go along with getting a house refinanced or purchased. And so he's willing to save you a little money just because you're getting the Ken Folks discount by being in the Bulldog family. Today's top 10 list, let me give a little credit here. Let me give a shout out. I have had numerous top 10 requests from this gentleman. And he said, it's Jay Heath Hopkins, just so you know. So Jay's like, hey, I've given you a lot of ideas, and maybe I have been remiss in mentioning Jay's, because sometimes I'll just send Roy the name, say, hey, we got a request for 3 Dog Night or something like that. And I don't tell him who it's from, so I try to remember. And so Jay has been keeping score. Jay says, hey, I've requested Van Halen, Van Hagar, top 10 Rutherfords, top 10 Mississippi musicians, and a few others. How about top rock songs in 1997? Well, here's the deal. He said 97 was a bad year of music, and so I absolutely disagree with that. The numbers don't support that, Jay. They don't. Jay Heath Hopkins. Sounds like he should be like in financial planning or something. So he's like, hey, it was a weird year of music. How about top 10 songs from 97 or top 10 worst songs from 97? Well, we've already done top alternative rock songs for 97. So I'm going to kind of take his idea and kind of flip it a little bit here. And we're going to go top rock songs from 1999. Now, it was different in 99, the late 90s. We didn't have a lot of metal. And there wasn't a lot of metal played on the radio. Like, and even the bands that were still kind of around were kind of pushed out by new metal. That was kind of rising to the forefront. So we've got some new metal on today's list. But I got a ton of honorable mentions today. I don't like to do a whole lot of them. I have to today because 99 was a year that introduced us to a lot of great artists. So the fact that these didn't make the list, and some of these have been on lists before, the fact that we could do a top 20 and you would still feel slighted and say, hey, what about so-and-so? So these didn't make the list. And I love these songs, but I wanted to kind of diversify the list a little bit. But Learn to Fly from Foo Fighters, honorable mention. Cowboy from Kid Rock. Even though I think my favorite Kid Rock song, well, only God Knows Why is my favorite one. But how do you not get down the ball with a ball? I mean, it's like you put it on, and it just makes you want to grit your teeth. How about Lit Up from Buck Cherry? I've seen those guys live. They're incredible. I love Buck Cherry. But Lit Up is a party song all the way. And sometimes I got to be careful singing that one, right? Alice in Chains, Get Born Again. This is kind of towards the end. The song One from Creed. That's right. I'm not scared to say it. You're not scared to listen to it either. Stop being a sheep. Creed was great. Don't pretend you didn't love it. Don't pretend you didn't sit there and sing with arms wide open at the top of your lungs. Yo, I hope he's not like me. Talking about your son. You know what I'm talking about. Don't pretend. Don't get herded into that pasture. And then how about Bittersweet from Fuel? How about that? Seen those guys live too. Love them. All right, so here's your top 10 list. And there's some bands. One of the reasons I didn't include all those is, we've talked about some of those before. So I said, let's diversify a little bit. And let me bring some bands in maybe we hadn't talked about much on top 10 list. Number 10, a band that I saw live at Bon Fett. One of the closest that I've come to a fight in the last several years.
Shop on eBay this holiday season to get more for your dough on stand mixers. Or get more for your buck on this season's hottest tech and gaming gear. And on eBay, you can even get more Ooh. Bling for less cha-ching on jewelry. You can get more because you save more on premium brands with eBay's exclusive deals. Get more when you get it on eBay.
Are you good at guessing what people want? This year, stop guessing and give them what they want. From burgers to video games to ripped jeans. They pick their gift from some of their favorite brands with a choice gift card from giftcards.com. It's genius.
But it's You Wanted More from the band Tonic. Tonic was great. They only got about 4 really good songs. But You Wanted More is probably the biggest one. And I know that If You Could Only See is another one that people really like. I like Casual Affair a lot. But You Wanted More, that's your number 10 song today from Tonic. Number 9, a band that I dug a lot. Like the second album a little bit more. I know many of you like this band too. They're still performing. But it's Inside Out from Eve 6. And some people are thinking, oh, dude, I hadn't listened to them in years. While you're thumbing through the Eve 6, put on Promise and listen to me. I'm telling you, you'll love it. Number 8, we've had this band before on a top 10 list. But it's the song Heavy from Collective Soul. I dig this track. I love the way that it starts. Love that guitar riff. Number 7, a song we've had before too, but I couldn't put this list together without including the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I went with Scar Tissue. I actually had the book. I hadn't read it yet. And matter of fact, I just picked up a copy of Dave Grohl's book. So I got some reading to do once the regular season ends. My goal is to get both of those books read before the end of the year. Number 6, we've never talked about this one. And at the time, this band was probably the biggest band in the world. And a lot of people hate them today. They deny they listen to them. They're liars. They're liars. Because everybody listened to Limp Bizkit at the time. Everybody did. You can say what you want. You can tell your kids. You can lie to your kids. You can lie to your boss. You're not going to lie to me. You and I both know when the song Nookie came out, you sang it. You did. Because you say, I did it all for the Nookie. Well, that's what you say. But everybody listened to that song. And if you say you didn't, you are a liar. And I absolutely cannot respect that. Number 5, this song has actually been on the list too. It's the band Bush. I absolutely love this track. I love Gavin Rossdale's vocal in this. It's The Chemicals Between Us. Number 4, I could have gone a lot because the Battle of Los Angeles came out in 1999. And if you know anything about rock music, you know that's Rage Against the Machine. One of the more powerful videos of that era and one of the most powerful songs of that year is Sleep Now in the Fire by Rage Against the Machine. Sleep Now in the Fire. Number 3, I could have gone a lot of different ways here. I almost went with Freak on a Leash, but I'm like, you know what? That's what everybody would probably do. But instead, I went, Korn and like the Family Values tour, Limp Bizkit and Korn, everybody, like those were the bands at the time. Those were the headliners in rock music. But I went with Falling Away From Me. I love all that guitar stuff in the background. I mean, it's all so eerie. And you watch that video, and it's just absolutely insanity. Falling Away From Me by Korn. Number 2, I had a friend of mine that the day that S&M came out from Metallica, they played, I think, with the San Francisco Symphony. I believe that's correct. Like, we were in line. He said, dude, I got to get this. And we were in line to go buy it. And I went home immediately and watched it all the way through. It was phenomenal. And then other people tried to do it, to kind of do what Metallica did. But there was a song that was brand new and kind of unique to that album, that S&M album, and it's No Leaf Clover. It is one of my favorite Metallica songs because I think it is so diverse and it is unlike anything else in the catalog. Listen, I like Seek and Destroy and For Whom the Bell Tolls and Master of Puppets. I love all that stuff too. But I really dig this track, and I think it gets a bum rap at times. And so I've got it number 2 on my list of top rock songs from 1999. So now you're thinking, Steve, we've talked Alice in Chains, we talked Rage Against the Machine, we talked Limp Bizkit, we talked Korn. What are we going to do? Well, it's got to be the Pet Shop Boys. No, it's not the Pet Shop Boys. I'm going with a band, and I'm doing this in many respects to kind of right it wrong, because I disliked this band for a long time because of the feud they had with Nikki Sixx of Motley Crue. Because I'm a Nikki guy. I'm a Motley guy. But one of my favorite rock songs of all time, not just from the 90s, not just from the past 25 years, but of all time, a song that I cannot drive the speed limit to. So if you ever hear of me getting pulled over for doing, 155, it's probably because I'm listening to this. But it's Keep Away from Godsmack. That is an absolute banger. And some people are going to say, Steve, you blew it. You didn't put Ricky Martin or whatever. And you're wrong. It's not rock music. I was living La Vida Loca too, but we're not going to do that on a rock list. But there you go. Top 10 rock songs from 1999. Absolutely love that era. And this is like, it was kind of a weird time in music, right? But there was a lot of attitude and there was a lot of innovation in music at the time. And that's what happens. When things begin to change, it takes a little while, for people to kind of adopt a new technology. And that's why I think bands like Korn still have some staying power, because they have been able to kind of sustain themselves in many respects. They don't chase trends, but it's like they build one album upon the other. And, of course, Brian Head Welch comes back and things are as they once were. Because Monkey couldn't play both parts on stage live. So there you go. There you go. Top 10 from 99. All right. Let's thank our good friends at Campus Bookmart as we look back and look at the weekend that was. And it was a very interesting weekend in the Southeastern Conference. But Campus Bookmart, I love those folks. I saw Candy and her wonderful husband earlier today. Great folks. They're out moving around. Everybody enjoying a nice day in Starkville. But I'm going to be at Campus Bookmart on, let me think here for a second. I'm going to be there on Saturday of this week. So I'll spend Black Friday at Bookmart and Cafe, and then Saturday at Campus Bookmart, and then Sunday I'll be right back at Bookmart and Cafe. So if you're shopping in Starkville this weekend, if you're staying over to buy your maroon and white wares, let me tell you, come to Campus Bookmart. And you get some signed books, get a picture made with me. You might even get a hug. Maybe, if you're nice. Maybe. It's free hugs and free signatures when you buy a book. If you're already stocked up on the Steve Robertson books, you need to outfit yourself and your friends, your family, your dog, everybody in new maroon and white merchandise. You can find it online at campusbookmart.net, and by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays, and that's BSR. That stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $50. Any order less than $50, absolutely incomplete. And let's be honest, we could all save a little money this time of year. That's one more gift that we can put under the tree, right? Not to pay that shipping. So go check it out today, campusbookmart.net. Let's go back and look at what happened over the weekend. Pretty crazy weekend. And it's like every week we say that. Nothing ever goes, the chalk doesn't hold anymore. Maybe it's because of all these COVID seniors. I don't know. It's different, man. It is. Maybe it levels out. We'll see. So Georgia destroys Charleston Southern 56-7. No surprise. A&M blows out Prairie View 52-3. Not to be outdone, Mississippi State, of course, beats Tennessee State 55-10. These 11 o'clock games, guys, all of them, the SEC team scored in the 50s. Kentucky, 56-16 winners over New Mexico State. Arguably the game of the day. Probably not the game of the day, but arguably you can make a case for it. Is the Alabama-Arkansas game. Alabama had numerous opportunities to put Arkansas away, and they couldn't do it. This is a vulnerable Alabama team. I mean, it's like we look at them and you say, Steve, they're number 2. They're number 2, and they're 10-1. Give them a break. And I am. They're great. Don't get me wrong. They destroyed us. But this doesn't look like a national championship team, and I think this is a team that, if they did make the playoffs, could lose in the playoffs. And I also think this is a team, too, that if they show up in a bowl game underprepared, if they pout because they didn't make the playoffs, they'll get beat. It'll happen. It's happened before. Utah beat them. Remember that? Yeah, I'm sure you did. But 42-35 winners, and Arkansas took them down to the wire. They really did. Alabama struggled to get stops, and then finally late, I think Nick Saban said, Pete, in the ball game, and they do. Missouri 24-23, and it's a game that sent shockwaves throughout the nation. Not just because of the outcome of the game, but the aftermath that followed. Dan Mullen fired at Florida after 4 years. It is absolutely incredible to me. I know people are like, oh, Steve, yeah. Guys, listen. I'm not a huge Dan Mullen fan. I'm appreciative of what he did for us. Dan Mullen is a great football coach, and he's a little smarmy, right? I think most people would agree to that. But let's be honest. I mean, when we talk about on this show that it takes a special person to run a blue blood program, and it's pretty obvious that that's not Dan Mullen, right? I think that's, I think Dan's unwillingness to recruit was really his undoing. One big with Muschamp's recruits, and Will was known as a good recruiter. Wasn't a great coach, but a great recruiter. But, let's kind of take a look at this. And I think it's important. Dan Mullen in 2018, a year that he should have been at Mississippi State and probably would have been in Atlanta. I believe Dan Mullen, with that 18 defense, wins the West, and we go to Atlanta. I believe it. Of course, it doesn't matter at this point because he wasn't here. But Mullen goes 10-3 at Florida, and they win the Peach. And he finished tied for second in the East. In 19, Mullen back in the New Year's Six, 11-2 in the regular season, 6-2, and again second in the East. And they win the Orange Bowl. Last year, it's like sometimes we forget. It's like, they went 8-4, but guys, it was an SEC-only schedule. They go 8-2. That can't be right. They went 8-2 in the regular season, and then they lose. I think the Wikipedia is wrong. The list of because I guess it is. They lost the SEC championship game. So an 8-2 regular season, they win the East. They lose to Bama, and they lose the Cotton Bowl. They got destroyed in the Cotton Bowl. And there was some angst about that kind of lingered over, but everybody's like, hey, we're going to be okay. And so here's the deal. It's like 3 major bowl games in a row. So your New Year's Six, and I think the Cotton was, they were 3 consecutive New Year's Six bowl games for Florida. And then one down year and he's gone. That's tough, man. That is tough. I had a guy come in the book signing the day and said, Steve, you know what? If he goes 8-4 at Mississippi State every year, we'd name a stadium after him. And that's right. And people could say, you know what, Steve? Well, maybe they expect more at Florida. Maybe they shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't, Florida. Because here's the thing, and I had this discussion with the illustrious Hound Dog earlier today. Sometimes I think that should be the show, like me and him just talking sports, because he has some interesting points. And he made a comment to me, too. He said, you know what? Mississippi State is a better job than people appreciate. I mean, it really is. Let's take a look at what Florida has done since Urban Meyer left. Now, of course, the last year of Urban was not good. They went 7-5 in a regular season, 4-4 in a league. They win the Outback Bowl and finish 8-5. And then, of course, he has some health problems, right? And, of course, you can't knock what Urban did. Urban was the biggest name in the country. Of course, he goes from Bowling Green to Utah, wins there, and then comes to Florida. And then in year 2, wins a national championship. And then in year 4, wins another one. Put 3 13-1 seasons together in 4 seasons. And then it all kind of fell apart. It did. And, of course, the first year he's up there, you don't have Tim Tebow, right? So Urban leaves, and they hire Will Muschamp. He has one good year. Has a top 10 finish, 2012. They go 11-2. Outside of that, 7-6, 11-2, 4-8, 7-5. And they win the Birmingham Bowl with DJ Durkin as the interim coach. Yep. All right, so then they bring in Jim McElwain. McElwain, 3 years, and then he's fired at 4-7. And so, are you noticing a trend here? It's like McElwain's 10-4, 9-4, 4-7, and he's gone. And of course, there was all that stuff about McElwain's termination had nothing to do with on-the-field performance. And it was like all this craziness about the shark thing, He says it wasn't him. I don't know if it was or wasn't, but like it was a popular thing on Twitter and people were making fun of him. And the next thing you know, there was this, some billing irregularities, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, it was not related to on the field stuff. They fire him, and it's pretty crazy. They fire him, and then they're looking for a coach, and they go get Mullen, and then Mullen gets him in 3 consecutive New Year's Six games, and he's terminated. Interestingly enough to me, there was a line in Scott Strickland's statement today where he says they're looking for sustained success. Well, Scott, aren't we all? We're all looking for sustained success. But it's like you begin to ask yourself, 3 straight New Year's Six, and then you have 1 difficult year. So it makes me wonder, is there something else here? Is there something else at play? I don't mean necessarily a scandal. I'm just saying, are there some people behind the scenes that maybe just got tired of Dan Mullen? Because Dan's a guy that grades on you after a while. I mean, he does. Dan's a big personality, and there are a lot of people that can only take Dan Mullen in small doses. That's Joe, completely different. Joe Moorhead, even though he has a big personality, Joe's kind of guy like, Brian Haydad has a Christmas party every year, and the media comes over, and they're very generous, and he and Jennifer feed all of us. Guys, Joe came to the party because that's who he is. Joe just comes to the party and sits on Brian Haydad's couch because that's who Joe is. Dan Mullen would have never done anything like that. Joe just didn't win enough. Simple as that. He didn't win enough. And think about this for a second. Joe Moorhead, we talk about the difference in the jobs. A lot of people say, Joe, that the era wasn't good. Look, guys, Joe won both the Egg Bowls and got us in bowl games in back-to-back years. And no, it wasn't pretty. That's the only time in our history that a guy has won the Egg Bowl and been fired. It's never happened in our history. And he did it twice. And you know what? And it was the right decision. As much as I like Joe, and I still have some correspondence from Joe from time to time, it was the right call. It really was. Maybe the job was too big for him. Maybe he just wasn't quite ready for it. I don't think it's an indictment on him as a person. And I think he'll probably learn from the experience and be better. But when you come in, you talk about, get your what's your ring size and clear out some spot on the mantle for the Heisman Trophy. You say that stuff in the locker room. You don't say it publicly. You just don't. And I think that there were a lot of people. Of course, that became kind of the whipping post. It's like those things begin to happen, and people kind of beat Joe up with his own words. Go kick rocks, Bob from Boca Chica. All right, Auburn in bad shape now. South Carolina wins. They're bowl eligible, and that's the thing. You look at this thing too now with Auburn. Auburn really in a good spot now for Mississippi State. Auburn not going to beat Alabama with T.J. Finley as a quarterback. Auburn's won the West, but they're not going to coast. Auburn going to be a 6-6 team. South Carolina going to be a 6-6 team more than likely. I guess they could get at 7-5. Not expecting it, but I didn't expect South Carolina to beat Florida. I didn't expect them to beat Auburn, even though that to me is less surprising. Auburn's playing a first game with a backup quarterback. You could see why the offense would struggle a little bit. And South Carolina has played 3 different quarterbacks that have all won 2 games apiece. So it has been a team effort. Vanderbilt, of course, takes Ole Miss down to the wire. It's a 31-17 ball game. And, that was the thing, too, is Vandy began to climb back into it. There was one sequence that really stood out to me. Vandy is 3rd and 3, and at the time averaging 4.2 yards a carry. And they threw back-to-back passes with a quarterback that really struggles to do that. What are you thinking? Ole Miss had not been able to stop the run. And even when they sold out, Rocco and those guys were able to find a crease every now and again. I thought the Vanderbilt offensive line actually played pretty well. So you have a chance there to really climb back in it. It doesn't work out. And what do they have? A couple turnovers and turnover on downs in the second half. Ole Miss wins 31-17. We're going to break some more Ole Miss stuff down tomorrow. But here's the deal. Vanderbilt, we love you, and we wish that you would have won this ball game. But this is probably the best we could have hoped for from you. Going down and looking at this thing too, Ole Miss up 24-9 at the break. They score 7 points in the second half. we have all this discussion about offensive guru. Like, I don't know who started that, but we hear that from time to time. Offensive guru. And so let's just go back and look at a couple things here. I think it's important. And maybe it's just me that thinks these things. You guys may see life a little differently than me. Maybe you're smarter than me. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you are. I don't know. Maybe you dated pretty girls than me. I don't know. Okay, so in the LSU ball game, Ole Miss scores 14 second half points, and all is in the third quarter. But listen, the game's over. It's 31-7, so you're kind of coasting a little bit. So there's not a big indictment, right? Well, the next week you play Auburn. You score 3 points in the second half, and you lose. You lose. Now, you're down at the half, 28-17, so you know you're going to come out and have to play some good offense, and then you don't. You put up 3 points. Then you get this ball game against Liberty. It's 24-0 at the break, right? Well, then you scored 3 points in the second half, and it's not like Liberty scored in the fourth quarter a couple garbage touchdowns. Guys, they scored 2 in the third quarter to pull within 2 scores. It's 27-14 at the end of 3. Liberty is still very much in the game. Let's go to this A&M game, right? So you get down here at the end, and it's like it's still very much a ball game. You get 1 offensive touchdown, and you get the pick 6, right? That's what puts the game away, is the A.J. Finley 52-yard interception. Because if it's 22-13, they're driving, it's still a 9-point game. But you get a pick 6. And so you're just not really getting the offensive production that you would think. And then you go back and look this week again. You look, again, the Vanderbilt game. This is a hapless opponent that Mississippi State drilled, and you score 7 points. So there are clearly some issues with whatever opponents are doing at the half to make adjustments to the Ole Miss offensive production. And listen, they do a great job scheming you up. Ole Miss is incredible in the first quarter. If State can survive that initial punch, maybe you get a turnover, maybe you get a play, if you get to the half with a lead, I think State's going to win going away. But this is a Ole Miss offense that is struggling in the second half of the season. This is an Ole Miss defense that is actually a little bit better. And like just by showing up, they should have been better than what they were a year ago. But they are better. They're not great by any stretch, but they're a better team defensively. And I think that's made a difference. I think that's the difference in them winning games like the Tennessee game, is because their defense is able to get stops. Remember how the game ended? With Ole Miss getting a stop. The guy comes up, half yard short of the first down. And listen, I know the Bulldog and us, he made it. He didn't make it. The spot was wrong, but even if the spot was correct, he didn't make it. It was 4th down. The game's over. Ole Miss made the play to win the game. And so, yeah, they're a little bit better defensively, but when you begin to think about, what happens when you play a second half team like Mississippi State? What is going to happen? So let's take a quick look at that. I don't want to get too involved in this because, we could chase rabbit trails all day with this kind of stuff. And we're going to have 4 shows this week, so we got plenty of time to talk about it. But let's just look at what State has done offensively in the second half here in recent weeks. And I think this is a really interesting combination, for what to expect. Let's go back. Let's start with the Vanderbilt game. State puts up 21 to outscore Vanderbilt 21-3 in the second half. And of course, this game was essentially over at halftime. It's 24-3 at the break, and you outscore them 21-3 in the second half. And that's without even really trying. Mississippi State second half against Kentucky. Of course, State is up 14-10 at the break after getting down 10-0. They outscore Kentucky 17-7 in the second half. We go to Arkansas, and we're down 13-7 at the break, and we outscore them 21-18 in a second. Not a huge disparity, but you still are winning the second half. The Auburn game. Do we even need to talk about it? You remember what the score was. State outscores them 33-6 in the second half. 33-6. It's insanity. And then this weekend, believe it or not, we give up 10 points late with the Bandits in there, and we still outscored them 20-10. So with the exception of the Alabama game, we talk about playing well in the second half of the year. State has found a groove in the second half. That's 5 straight games Mississippi State has outscored their opponents in the second half. So, again, you get this game to the half within a score, or if you got, let's just say State's got the lead at the half, my goodness. What could happen? Because you're going to be there. Ring that cowbell. It's going to be a tough place to come back. It really is. Now, give Matt Corral credit. Last time he was here, he let him down for a potential game-time score, and then Elijah Moore lost all sense of reality. And next thing you know, there's trouble. There's trouble. All right, finishing up these scores. South Alabama, not much of a threat at all. Tennessee, 60-14 winners for Tennessee. And then LSU struggles through this ball game. But they beat UL Monroe 27-14 to keep the dream of the Birmingham Bowl alive, for LSU. And LSU had to play a little bit. They did. It's 17-7 at the break, and then they get ahead 24. But then UL Monroe comes back. But it was not a masterpiece by any stretch. And there are a lot of people involved with LSU football just ready for this thing to be over with. They just are. I mean, people. I think. What do you do with an orange run if you make a bowl game? And LSU might just decide, you know what? Hey, we're not going to take the invitation. Because here's the thing. You look at these standings, real quick. So obviously, Georgia has won the East. At this point, Kentucky 8-3 plays Louisville this weekend. Tennessee 6-5. They're going to be 7-5. They play Vandy this weekend. Missouri 6-5. They play Arkansas this weekend. That'll be interesting. I like Arkansas. That's interesting. South Carolina 6-5. They play Clemson. Florida 5-6. They play Florida State. Vanderbilt 2-9. Of course, they play Kentucky. I'm going to play Tennessee. Excuse me. So you could have 4 teams in the SEC East that are 6-6. And so, again, that kind of takes me back to this whole schedule modeling thing. It's like, man, it's these things work in cycles. When over half the teams in the East are barely bowl eligible, don't talk to me about that. We play Georgia. Yeah, you do. You also play Vanderbilt every year. We don't get that. You and Ole Miss get that. We don't get that. All right, look at the West. Alabama 10-1. They get Auburn this weekend. That's a win. Ole Miss 9-2. And could play their way into a New Year's Six. They get Mississippi State this weekend. That's a loss. State 7-4. They're going to beat Ole Miss, be 8-4. A&M's 8-3. They got to go to LSU. So A&M could win and be a 9-3, and they could sneak in to a New Year's Six. And that's what I think will probably happen. State beats Ole Miss. A&M beats LSU. I think A&M gets that spot. A&M moves up, takes that spot. Auburn 6-5. They'll finish 6-6. Arkansas, I think, will beat Mizzou and finish 8-4. And then LSU will lose and be 5-7. And so, but it's crazy to think about. There's only one team in the league right now that is out of bowl contention. You could have 13 of 14 teams in the SEC be bowl eligible. You don't have enough spots for everybody, but trust me, they'll find them. They'll find them a spot. Interesting stuff, for sure, to say the least. Interesting stuff around the SEC. So. And again, tomorrow we'll kind of look at kind of more the bowl possibilities. Not a lot has changed since we talked about it last Friday, but we'll kind of update you and kind of give you your rooting interest to kind of help Mississippi State get into a Florida bowl game. I firmly believe if we finish 7-5, if we don't win the Egg Bowl, we're going to Texas. I believe that probably 95%. If we win, I think we're going somewhere in Florida. Is it the Outback? Will they take Tennessee at 7-5? I think you could make a case. Mississippi State deserves to go, even though we went in 2018. We deserve to go over a 7-5 team. We've been at a Gator Bowl 3 times in the last 10 years. But I'd rather go to Florida. But I'm just happy we're having these discussions. You know what I'm saying? That's the cool thing. We're having these discussions about arguing about the last game of the year, not just making a bowl game. We've done that. And we're going to finish in top half of the league. but a chance to get in the Florida bowl game when many people didn't even have us in the bowl picture. I remember some loudmouth experts had us going 4-8, winning one SEC game against Vanderbilt. Right? Remember that? And so, listen, we all miss on some stuff, but there are some people they take such glee at taking shots at Mississippi State because they know that our people will respond. They know that we'll respond because they feel like we're insecure. Maybe we are, but I get so tired of Mississippi State getting kicked around a little bit. I really do. The national media always acts like we're a punchline. They do. Even some of the people that I respect, it's like anytime they get a chance, they want to take a shot. And you remember there were so many people that were just so absolutely incredulous that we were so upset about Dan Mullen leaving. And we always knew at some point he would. But people acted like we didn't have a good job, a good program. And they're wrong. And now look at what's happened to Dan Mullen. We talked about it on the show before. Dan Mullen is like that guy that dated the same girl all the way through college and med school, and he became a doctor, and he broke up with her and traded her in for some Instagram model. And then the Instagram model is, married to him for 3 or 4 years and now divorcing him and taking his money. That's how it looks. Now, of course, Dan Mullen will leave a very wealthy man from the University of Florida. And, if he wants to, he don't even think he has to work anymore. The guy's put away a lot of money. And you get $12 million. What's it, $6 million up front, then $1 million a year for the next 6 years, something like that. The guy never has to work again a day in his life. He doesn't. But let's move on. Let's get into our final segment of the show, brought to you by Portico. And I know you'll love that place. It's a great place to live. And if you haven't just ridden by there and checked it out, you deserve it. And here's what's going to happen. Let me warn you. Your dreams are going to run wild a little bit. It's true. You're going to start thinking, you know what, man, this is a really nice place. And this really is close to campus. It's 1.1 miles away from campus. That's how close it is. And you're on the right side of campus. You're on the quiet side of campus. You're not on the business side. You're not in that commercial aspect of campus. You're quiet. You can zoom in and out of traffic and get right back to your home after the ball game's over. All your friends are going to want to come over because you're so close. Hey, can we come eat with you guys? Yeah, come on. Got that great walking trail. You can go burn off some of those calories you had that you put on from all your tailgating food. If you're a runner, you can run to campus. It's great. You'll be excited about it. Now, here's the thing. You can't move in right now because we've done such a good job promoting this thing. Phase 1 is full. But Phase 2 is a good option for you because you can have a say in picking your lot and picking the house plans for your future home. And everybody deserves to do that at least once in life. Brooks Bryan is a great friend of mine. He is a great friend of Mississippi State's. He is a great friend of yours. And he'd like to be an even better friend of yours because he knows it's been your dream at some point to move to Starkville or move back to Starkville. And maybe you need an investment property. Maybe you want to say, I want to Airbnb it out when I'm not using it. You can do that. Or maybe you're thinking, you know what, I want to get a second home. I want to be able to have a place to live. I don't want to have to carry on my tailgate and stuff everywhere I go. I want a place I can spend the night and not have to play all the hotel rooms, and then, hey, maybe I've got kids that are coming to school up here. They can stay at the house, watch it. I don't have to pay for the dorm. Brooks can give you all your options. Give him a call or text today. 601-416-8075. Again, 601-416-8075. There are a lot of people out there doing a lot of advertising dollars. There are. How many of them are giving you their cell number? Right? I mean, think about the people you do business with. How many people are you getting some 1-800-543, whatever? You get that all the time. Or visit us on the World Wide Web at this. Listen, you come to the Boneyard, I'm giving you these people's personal cell numbers. These people want to do business with you. They want to have a business relationship with you. Make Portico your next move. Okay, so we're going to go back and relive some great moments in the Mississippi State-Ole Miss rivalry. And I thought, we would start today. We're going to have 3 of these this week. Let's start with the 1998 Egg Bowl. Because here's the thing. And I know, again, there's some Ole Miss people listening to the show. So here's the thing. It's like, as good as this year has been for you guys, and it's been a good year. It has been. And I love the reaction. It's like, it's about where I had us. Guys, listen, I know this is something you don't want to talk about with your friends, and you don't want to be honest about this. But I know when you lay down at night and you turn the light off and you get your feet under those covers and you pull that blanket up by your head, you roll over, there's a part of you that says, you know what? It's never going to happen for us. We're never going to make it to Atlanta. We had a Heisman caliber quarterback this year, and we thought we were going to beat Alabama. and we had some people in the national media telling us we were going to beat Alabama, that we were the dark horse. And now you're not. You're eliminated again. You're an also-ran again. And it's like the same logic you used, like when Mississippi State would, we would always talk about all these great trips to Omaha. Everybody's like, well, yeah, you went, but you didn't win. But you didn't win. Well, now we have. We have won. We've proven we can win it all. And as one of our astute Boneyard listeners pointed out, that Ole Miss is the only team in the Southeastern Conference to never play in a national championship game in a modern era in any sport. How about them apples? You start thinking, but Steve, how can that be true? Well, it is. You want me to run it down for you? Because I can. I absolutely can. Let's look at the I'm going to do it just because I know what's going to happen. People are going to say, well, Steve, okay, so Georgia has played for a national championship and football in recent years. Kentucky, how many men's basketball championship banners do you want to see? Tennessee won the 1998 BCS national championship. And how many national championships did Pat Summitt win? Guys, Missouri has also won the national championship. Actually won it in baseball years ago. South Carolina has won it in baseball and women's basketball. Florida has won several national championships, but of course, Steve Spurrier won one, Urban Meyer won two. Florida's also won a college baseball national championship. Vanderbilt, also some baseball national championships. Alabama, do we need to go on? I don't think we do. Mississippi State, no, we won a national championship in baseball, and we have actually played before for a national championship in baseball. Texas A&M won a national championship in women's basketball with Skylar Diggins. Auburn, of course, Cam Newton. Arkansas, right? Arkansas won the national championship, back-to-back championships in basketball, and then they lose in a championship series against Oregon State in baseball. LSU, do we need to say it? So there you go. There's your new talking point. It's like, well, we're invested in championships, except you're the only team in the conference not to play for them. Isn't that something? It's like you can tweet it. You can tweet it, and you can make your graphic and everything else, and you can have your little hardy har-har laughs. But the reality of it is it's beginning to sink in that it's probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. And you think, well, now, like, people are talking about hiring our coach. And you laugh about that on Twitter, and it's like it's a big joke. And you're like, oh, yeah, all the Bulldog fans are ready for him to leave. And you know what? Hey, we'll give the guy credit. He's been better than we expected. But the reason you're joking about it is to keep from crying, because deep down in places you don't want to talk about, you realize it's not going to happen, and there's a good chance that your coach is going to leave. Because you, by your own admission, kind of realize, and maybe you talk among yourselves, that he's not real keen on Oxford. It's just not really his scene. It may be yours, but it's not really his. And if it's not now, it's later. And what, his stock may not be higher next year because you guys aren't going to be very good, and you know it. Right? Because where would you be without Matt Corral, who is phenomenal? He is. Going to have our hands full with him on Thursday. But deep down, you know it. It's just not going to happen for you. And you'll say, well, hey, we made a New Year's Six Bowl again. We did? Yeah, we did. But you still hadn't been to Atlanta, and we have, and we're fixing to talk about that right now. So Mississippi State had a chance to do something never been done before in the state of Mississippi, haven't been done since. Mississippi State wins the SEC championship for Western Division. So, we beat Arkansas, and JJ was beat up, didn't play much. And Ole Miss got destroyed in that Georgia game. Romero Miller ends up with a broken collarbone. And listen, guys, all due respect, even though Romero is like kind of clueless on Twitter, that guy could really play. That guy was a really good quarterback out of Shannon, Mississippi. He was a Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Mississippi. And, obviously State, Ole Miss both recruited him really hard. Ole Miss was going to get him. We ended up taking Wayne Madkin. And, of course, Wayne Madkin, if memory serves me correct, the Madkin family has as many appearances in the SEC championship game as the Manning family does. I think that's correct. I'm confident I'm correct. All right, so we went to Oxford, and What's David Miller? I think that was his name. David Miller was the quarterback. I know he has like the quarterback country thing now, which is interesting. Walk-on quarterback at Ole Miss ends up being kind of thrown to the wolves in many respects after Romero Miller's injury and has to go play. So Romero is out. JJ limited. And Ole Miss actually goes down and takes an early lead. They make a 40-yard field goal. I think it was with Bryce Carlisle, maybe. I'm pulling that from memory. Makes the 40-yard field goal to go up 3-0. And then all the Vaught Hemingway people were like, hey, maybe this thing is going to happen. No, it wasn't. It wasn't going to happen. So Wayne Matkin makes a huge throw down the field, and Kevin Prentice, there was not, even though the guy was like 5'8", 5'9", you couldn't catch him. So KP gets behind the defense. Wayne hits him. Huge gain, sets up a 1st and goal. We bring in JJ, and that was about all he could do. Even though we ran him a little bit outside at times, he was really just kind of a short yardage guy because he had the groin injury against Arkansas. If I remember correctly, he only had 34 yards against Arkansas. I believe that's what I wrote down. But JJ gets in. Now it's a 7-3 ball game. So we're feeling pretty good. But because we knew they couldn't score. They couldn't score without our help. So, again, Wayne Matkin dials up and really underthrew the football here. We line up Reginald Kelly basically outside as a wide receiver. We lay it up there to him. He has to fight back for the football, and as big and strong as he was, there was no way an Ole Miss defender was going to get there. And now it's 1st and goal again. We bring in JJ, and rather than kick the field goal, we actually went for it on 4th and goal. And JJ Johnson, dives over the top. And that used to be the big thing, right? Big running backs would dive over the pile. That's what he does. Makes it 14-3. And at this point, I think we all knew the game was over. I think we knew it. They knew it. They hoped against it. I think we knew it as well as our defense was playing. That incredibly athletic defense of Jolie Dunn's. They had little to no chance. They do get a late field goal. With 1:57 to go in the second quarter, Ole Miss makes a field goal 14-6. Ole Miss actually puts a drive together there in the third quarter and begin to drive down. And Dave Morris, right, whatever his name was, he throws a pick in the end zone, and really a terrible read, a terrible throw. Corey Peterson was not open. And then he underthrows it. Robert Beam picks it off and actually returns it out. Deuce McAllister, with his big highlight of the game, makes the tackle on the play out near the Mississippi State 30-yard line. So great job there, Deuce. Later, we put a drive together, and we hit DeCenzo Miller on a screen, catch Ole Miss on a blitz, and Cenzo takes it to the house, 21-6, true freshman from Ware, Mississippi, just kind of making it happen, doing some great things. And again, we knew it was over. Ole Miss puts together another drive. State brings some heat. He throws into traffic, and it's Eric Daniel. Eric Daniel picking it off. Incredible. And so, here's the cool thing that I think is when you go back and look at all this stuff, the exclamation point in this game. And one of the things that's interesting, too, like on David Morris's bio, it says that he remains the only true freshman to start, true freshman walk-on that started an SEC game. That's an interesting statistic. But here's the cool thing that maybe you didn't know. Dave Morris played 15 games in 4 years at Ole Miss, 15 years. Probably felt like after playing Jolie Dunn's defense. But, he appeared in 15 games and threw one touchdown in his college career. Sadly for Ole Miss, it was to Tim Nelson. Yeah, that's right. Pass to the sidelines there, pops up. Tim Nelson picks it off, brings it back for pick six, dives into the end zone. State wins 28-6. And then State parades around Vaught Hemingway Stadium with the Golden Egg Trophy, knowing that we were on our way to Atlanta. And, of course, that's when, that's when, the Ole Miss folks said, hey, you know what? We got to do something about this Jackie Sherrill guy. And here's the cool thing, is no matter what everybody says, what anybody does, you can't take this moment away from us. So we win, we go to Atlanta, we lose. Tennessee, eventual national champion, and had a fourth quarter lead and just couldn't finish the deal. Just didn't have quite enough offense to finish the deal. And Peerless Price got to us there in that fourth quarter, and you give Tennessee a lot of credit. They went on to win and beat Florida State for a national championship. And it would have been great to have won it, but we didn't. We were the bridesmaids again. But it's one of those things, too, it's like, I'd rather live knowing that I had the chance then they've never gone at all. And so it's like, again, we tell ourselves, well, it's probably not going to happen for us. At least we know. We hadn't been back, but I believe we're going to get back. And maybe after Nick Saban retires, I guess maybe it's a race to see who retires first, Leach or Saban. But I think the trajectory of our program is very positive. And I suspect if you ask Dan Mullen in hindsight, maybe he should have stuck around. But the reality of it is that we have been to Atlanta. We don't have to put up a banner and pretend. We say, we were co-champs. No, unless your team's name has been in the end zone of the Georgia Dome the first Saturday in December, you haven't won anything. You may have tied for something, but you didn't win. There's a reason we have a tiebreaker. And so if you hadn't gone to Atlanta, and people laugh about that 2003 thing. LSU, of course, wins the West, wins the SEC, wins a national championship, but yet Ole Miss has a 2003 SEC West banner up there. And they think what helps recruiting until they do their own research, because deep down we all know it's just not going to happen for you guys. And that's the thing. The beginning of the year, a lot of Mississippi State people said, you know what, I just want to get to a bowl game. I don't want Ole Miss to get to Atlanta. So win-win. But let's finish up here and get a W on Thursday. And then I don't care where Ole Miss goes to a bowl game. I just want to get the egg, and then let's go to a nice bowl game. And whether we go to Texas, we go to Memphis, we go to Boca Raton, whatever, I don't even care. We're moving in the right direction. And our team is still relatively young. The nucleus of our team offensively are second-year players. We got probably 2 years left with all those guys. And so that makes me feel really good about our future, and it should make you feel good as well. Great show today. Enjoy talking to you guys about this. I'll be back tomorrow. How about that? I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit more, preview some more. Again, going to look at what Ole Miss looks like on the offensive side of football against the Bulldog defense. We'll kind of break those two things down. And another great top 10 list. I want to give you guys some lead time here. So tomorrow is Tuesday. So we're going to do top 10 songs that I would like to dedicate to the Ole Miss fan base. And then on Wednesday, we're going to do kind of a Thanksgiving-type deal, Thanksgiving-type show in many respects. We're going to preview the game and also talk about how the Bulldog offense matches up against the Ole Miss defense. But our top 10 list is going to be kind of Thanksgiving-related, and then we'll have the Friday show. And the Friday top 10 list will kind of depend on what happens in the Thursday ballgame. Again, I remain confident in the ballgame. I think Mississippi State's going to win. I don't think it's going to be a blowout type game either. I know some people are saying I do think if State gets the lead at the half, that we're probably going to win by a couple scores. And, of course, if you saw the future spread last week, like the futures, they were saying, hey, Ole Miss probably favored by 2. Not the case. Mississippi State favored in this ballgame. And again, I expect State to win, and I look forward to celebrating with you guys too. But this is one of those years too. It's like, I think if you looked at the season, you'd say, you know what, Ole Miss has had the better season. But if you look at the second half, I think you'd say, you know what, State's had the better second half of the season. We're trending upwards. I think they're trending downwards. You say, well, that big win against A&M, and they found a way to win. Absolutely correct. You know what? But we went to College Station, we beat that same team. We also went to Auburn and beat the same team they couldn't beat. And so it's like you look at some of these things, there's a lot of similarities in these teams. And listen, they're going to finish ahead of us with the overall record, but we could catch them and beat them in the SEC standings. And so I think in hindsight, we're going to look back at this season and say, you know what, this is a season where Mike Leach and them kind of came of age in Starkville, Mississippi. Hadn't done so, let me encourage you, go to dogpilethebook.com and pre-order your copies. And I hope to have a release date. Hope to get it this week, if not after the Thanksgiving week. And, I'm still holding out hope we can get them for Christmas. If we don't, you're still going to get them. But I'll keep you updated as I know. It's a very frustrating deal for me. I mean, it really, really is. I worked exceptionally hard to get this thing done in hopes of you guys having it on the Christmas tree. I still hang on to that hope. But it is very, very difficult for me in many respects because I worked exceptionally hard because I love all of you, and I wanted you to have the joy of giving that book to people at Christmas. And so that's why I worked as hard as I did. If I'd known that we were going to have these delays, I wouldn't have nearly killed myself writing that book. But I'm really proud of it. I look forward to you guys having it. And while you're there, you can get copies of Flim Flam, Stark Villains, and Alpha Dogs. And we talked about some of those books today. If you want to know more about the history of the State Ole Miss rivalry from a State Ole Miss perspective, get a copy of Stark Villains and Alpha Dogs. You'll be glad you did. Of course, you're looking for Blooms of Oleander. You can get that almost anywhere. Find it online at Amazon.com. You can find it as an ebook. You can also get it through your local bookstore. That's going to do it for today. Be right back with you tomorrow. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast, it's on at McDonald's. Now enjoy a large iced coffee for just $2. Add a breakfast sandwich to make a meal. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.